Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for attending our webinar of how to create a winning entry for the 2022 WisCOMsin Awards. My name is Rob Gard. I am Director of PR and Communications for Destination Madison, the tourism and travel promotion arm of Dane County. We encourage and excite people to come to Madison and Dane County. I am going to moderate today's session. Come to you as WisCOMsin Award winner, both for a couple of projects that we submitted last year and as an individual award, practitioner award. I was awarded Communicator of the Year in 2021. Today, we are joined by three distinguished panelists. Erin Elliott is an account supervisor with the public relations, social media, and content team at Hebing. She teaches principles of public relations at UW-Oshkosh. She's been on the board of PRSA Northeast Wisconsin chapter since 2005, serving as president in 2012, 19, and 20, and she's currently the treasurer. She's also a member of the Wisconsin Awards Planning Committee. APR and Lifetime Achievement Award recipient Lynn Perez-Hewitt arrived to Wisconsin in the midst of the pandemic and immediately joined the PRSA Madison chapter. She was active in the Colorado chapter and is past president of the Southern Arizona chapter. Her PR background includes healthcare, state parks, investor relations, and nonprofit agencies in both social services and the arts. She's also on the Wisconsin Awards Planning Committee. And finally, Bob Giblin, APR. I spent more than 40 years of agency, corporate, government, military PR experience. He also has the APR and has served for 20 years on the board overseeing the APR examination program. He's conducted training programs on PR planning, measurement and evaluation, awards entries, and research management for Fortune 100 companies, PR agencies, professional associations. He's also served as a judge for the PRSA Silver Anvil Awards, the big national ones, as well as numerous other public relations awards programs. And Bob is on the Wisconsin Awards Planning Committee. So thank you for joining us. And for those who are unable to join us in person, we're pleased to be able to record this to basically set you up to win. The goal of the WisCOMsin Awards is to honor what you have worked so hard to do in the previous year and to give you a little feather in the cap, both on a personal, professional level, and then for your organizations or clients to show that the work you do has value that is recognized by the best of the best for peers. So I'm going to be going back and forth with some different screen shares. So please bear with me on that. One thing we have to screen share is get out of that, an antitrust statement that is required by PRSA National. So let me get to that. So antitrust statement, PRSA's policy is to comply fully and strictly with all federal, state, and antitrust laws. Meetings and programs held under the auspices of PRSA must be conducted in a manner that avoids the fact or appearance of conduct that may violate antitrust laws. A couple of other really key components there with the antitrust statement, so you can breeze through that. But basically, we're saying that this is a professional webinar and we're not promoting individual businesses or PRSA to the exclusion of other opportunities and activities. With that, I'm going to kick it over to Erin, who's going to talk a little bit about the background of WisCOMsin Awards and how to get into the process of submitting them. So Erin, I'll lead it over to you and let me know when you would like me to do some screen sharing.
Absolutely. So the WisCOMsin Awards were born last year. This competition, that's open right now, is the second annual. And it was born because Northeast Wisconsin, our chapter, had long offered a program called the Premier Awards. And I think we had that for 10, 11 years. And PRSA Madison had, for probably the same amount of time, if not longer, had the Alchemy Awards. And as we had a spirit of collaboration going among the chapters to include the Southeast Wisconsin chapter, talking about different ways, especially during the pandemic, that we could share resources when everything moved virtual. How could we better share information that would help us all through that buzzword unprecedented time, right? We started realizing that there, in addition to just regular programming opportunities, there was an opportunity to create an award program that would extend beyond our geographic areas and encapsulate the entire state. So the Southeast Wisconsin chapter still holds its own individual awards program. However, the WisCOMsin Awards are open to anybody throughout the state, meaning that last year, in our inaugural year, we had submissions from certainly in the geographic area of the Northeast Wisconsin chapter and Madison chapter, and some in the Milwaukee area as well. So this is slowly becoming what we had hoped it would be, which is the only, to our knowledge, statewide communications award program. So we're very excited to bring this back for year 2. It is coordinated again. It had its roots in this cross collaboration between or among the different chapters in the state, the 3 chapters in the state, Northeast Wisconsin, Madison, Southeast. But as we began planning this particular program, we have equal representation on the steering committee from the Madison chapter and from the Northeast Wisconsin chapter, since we are taking ownership of the administration of the program. That happened last year, that happened this year as well. So we are working in a lot of the same ways this year, again, with our steering committee. However, we, last year, as you all know from being communications professionals, whenever you do something for the first time, you always have learnings, right? You always look back at your objectives and did you hit those, and what things could we change? So we certainly looked at things this year and identified some opportunities to make things even better. And that's what we'll be talking a little bit about today, about some of the changes that we made to help you, as Rob said, be successful. That is the goal. We are really hoping that everybody who submits feels good about their entry and is rewarded for that work that you did last year. So I think the first and most important thing to say is when you are considering entering the competition, to learn more about it, go to your chapter's website. So if you are in Northeast Wisconsin, you can go to our chapter website, which is prsaneWis.org. I said that fast because I think you all know how to get there. And in fact, there's a quick link right at the homepage in one of the rotators to go right to our page. And if for PRSA Madison, Rob, do you want to bring up how the screen looks for your chapter? So this is on your chapter website. If you go to PRSAMadison.org, and there's a menu at the top, it just says awards program, and it's right there. So you can click right on it. And if you read the little blurb here, I know it seems small on the screen, it's bigger when it's actually on your computer screen, but there's 2 learn more links, and those learn more links in the text will take you right to the entry platform. We use a platform called Wufoo, which maybe some of you have used in other aspects of your work. It worked out so well last year. We're using that again this year. So we're first going to look at, this is the form for the projects. So there are 2 different types of awards you can enter for. You can enter your actual work, your project, your campaigns and tactics, which we'll talk about now. Then there's the practitioner awards. And as Rob said earlier, Destination Madison won in both fields last year. So you're not limited. You can nominate yourselves in both types of categories and as many as you want. So here we are now in the project award category screen, and there are campaigns and there are tactics. Those are the 2 different kind of types of work you can submit, because we want to make sure that everybody who did work last year that you want to submit feels like you have a home for that. So we're not going to go through all of them. They're very easy to kind of read through and digest and look at the descriptions to figure out where your work or works, because you probably have many things from last year that you'd like to submit, would fall. But again, they fall under the campaigns and tactics heading. I do want to call out 8 new campaign categories that we added this year. They are numbers 8, 9, 10, and 11. So events and observances, multinational or global campaign, multicultural campaign, and then an open category. So if you go through all of these and you just still feel like, I don't think mine fits in any of these, we still want to hear and see your work. So you have that open category if you don't feel like it fits. And then going down below into the actual tactics that can be entered. They are very similar to last year. The only thing we added in the digital tactic area, which is a number 6, is the smartphone or tablet application. So an app category. So wanted to make sure that we added that in as well. And we did make some little tweaky changes just on wording that we wanted to make sure was more clear this year. So the lesson to take away from this page is just read it all through, be really thinking about the types of work that you want to enter. And if you don't see where that fits, you can always reach out to us. Our email address is pretty well promoted throughout the entry process. You can always reach out and we can help you figure out where that home would be. So once you kind of read through this and you can go to the next page. And this is where you would actually start to enter your information. But it is really key, and we'll say this probably several times during today's talk. We don't want you just going in here on a lark. Hey, I've got 20 minutes before the end of the day. I'm just going to go in here and enter some awards. This is really for you to look at and think about and digest, maybe do a lot of copying and pasting over into some Word documents so that when you have time, and these are not written in ways that would take you, many weeks to create, but more than 15 minutes. So once you have that good chunk of time where you can really focus on this, you already have all the information in that Word doc that you can kind of start plugging and playing. And when you finally get things to a point where you're ready to submit, you can go back into the screen, plug it all in and hit send. But again, want you to be looking at this so that first of all, that project category is a necessary field. Are you doing a campaign or are you doing a tactic? You can see right now that Rob has tactics chosen. Rob, if you want to click campaigns, you'll kind of be able to see that the other aspects come up. So that allows you to individually select which one you're filling out so that you're being judged in the appropriate category and subcategory. So once you have that selected, the information below doesn't change at all. So it doesn't matter what you're submitting, you're going to be asked for the same fields, but you just will want to, just know it up above. You'll have to kind of fill in which category or subcategory of tactics and campaigns you're doing. So obviously,
Eric,
yeah.
Just to be clear, in a campaign, you have several tactics, often have several tactics. If they're listed as part of a campaign, can each of those tactics still be entered separately in the tactical area for awards based on the tactics?
That's a great question. I think that would make sense. If you're being entered, you're entered as kind of an overarching campaign, that makes sense. And taking them individually, that makes sense as well. Again, as we kind of go through here, we'll be outlining the things you would have to be able to say about each, making sure you have the appropriate metrics as you're evaluating them. But as long as they fit the bill and that you can answer these questions about them, they count. Good question. So the easy stuff here, putting the entry name, so the title of your project, whether it's a campaign or it's a tactic, the organization for which the entry was implemented. So likely where you work, but could be where you volunteer as well. Name of any assisting agency, if that was part of the equation for you. Then you get into the project details, and we do have this bolded here, but we'll call it out. There's a maximum of 500 words per section. And the WUFU form will keep track of that for you, but obviously you're going to want to write that in Word and keep track of that yourself so you're not editing on the fly in here. To start off, you're just going to do a brief little synopsis about what the purpose of your project was. So that's only a couple sentences long. You will not reach 500 words for sure there. Then you get into the research component. And it's important to say for the next one, so this definitely follows the, if you've achieved your APR, or you just have, remember things from school, the RPI process is definitely what we're going through here. So we're making sure that campaigns and tactics are grounded in research. There's planning and the implementation or execution, and then the evaluation. But what we have done in each of these sections for those big kahunas is taken the rubric that the judges will be using and essentially putting it right in here. So when you are looking at all the individual information required in each section, that is literally what the judges will be looking for. As Lynn will probably say later, it's like an open book test. This is exactly what they're looking for. If you know that your information is being covered off, that's being called for here, you've met the criteria. You have a winning award entry. And as Rob just highlighted there, an entry receiving full points for this section will have, and here they're detailed, research methods clearly identified. And what are research methods? Look up 2 little sections to all those bullets. Here's a whole bunch of different samples of ideas we give you for what those research methods could be. Are those chosen methods appropriate for the project and purpose that you're doing? Are those methods described clearly with decent amount of detail? Are the results summarized? And do they demonstrably affect the creation or implementation of the definition of the target, the metrics, the objectives, the strategies, the tactics? So again, can't stress that enough. Read through that information, make sure it's in your entry for that section, and you will have what the judges are looking for. Then if you want to scroll down a little bit, Rob, so you see where the field is there that you enter, then you go to planning, same thing. All the information that the judges will be getting for the rubric when scoring your award are put right here so that you know what the judges will be looking for. And if there's any question about what does that mean? What are you talking about? Making sure we're speaking the same language. What do you mean when you say goal? What do you mean when you say a SMART objective? It's spelled out right there for you. Get down to implementation and execution. Same thing, making sure that we're defining what we mean by tactic, and then talking about what the entry receiving full points will have when describing how those tactics were implemented. And finally, we cannot forget about evaluation and results, right? That's a big deal. So making sure that we're calling out exactly what to be looking for in an entry that received full points, that you're going back to your objectives. And did you say how those objectives were met or not met? And a winning entry does not have to have all of its objectives met. We understand that sometimes things don't work out. You actually didn't achieve what you were hoping for based on X or Y or Z. That's okay. But what did you learn from it? What did you learn? And those lessons and potential improvements for next time are really important to have. We also talk here about, or was it up above? We were talking about resources. It's also really important to be able to detail. Yep, that's in the planning section. But that doesn't just mean dollars. A budget is important, but a budget can be $0. But chances are you're somebody spending a lot of time then. So what staffing resource was undertaken, and making sure that those things are noted. And then we do say, if you have supplemental materials that you want the judges to be able to look at, they're not required. It's not like if you have 15 files, you have a better chance of winning. That's not true. I think all of us who have judged know that that's not true. Sometimes it doesn't, the best entries have 1 or 2 at the most in terms of attachments. It really is about the thinking, right? But if it helps to kind of show proof of concept and what you've achieved with your project, we have space here for you to attach files and to share links, active links to the work. But you're going to want to check those links and make sure that they are live and they work, because the judges are not, think about it, the judges are people like us, which we'll get to in a second too, who those people are. They are not going to be chasing down your entries. Those links don't work, they're moving on. We'll hit next page. And then here is where, after you have all that in, you just enter your basic contact information. Scroll down. It'll ask you if you're a member of any PRSA Madison or PRSA chapter. And then it will bring you to the submission and payment platform, where it's just a PayPal link. And as you see, it's before the early bird deadline is $35 for members, and I believe $50 for non-members. So that's the project awards. The practitioner awards are very similar in terms of structure because it is the WUFU platform yet, but they're quite different when it comes to the information that's being looked for and required and drafted, because these are about people, right? These are telling stories about people or groups of people. These are the same categories as last year, with the exception of one. And we'll get to that in a second. So the categories are Communicator of the Year, Young Professional of the Year, Communication Team of the Year. We actually called it PR Communication Team of the Year, just to kind of further clarify who's eligible. And then the new one, which is the Pivot to PR Success Award. So before we go through kind of how you enter someone or someone's for these awards, I do want to just kind of be very prescriptive about what we mean by Pivot to PR Success, because it is new and we want to make sure people know that it's here, and we're hoping that lots of eligible people are nominated. So this award acknowledges a professional who assessed and adapted their skill sets and joined the PR community from another career field within the last 5 years. This person must demonstrate ethics, integrity, and best practices benefiting the whole of our industry, the community, their employer, and their clients. Nominations are open to both PRSA members and non-members. And I am sure that all of us know someone who fits the bill there. Maybe we are someone who fits the bill there. And that's an important point to note too, that self-nominations are absolutely welcome for any of these categories. I know that sometimes that's an awkward thing to, think that you're nominating yourself, but please do know that is welcome and encouraged and has happened in ours and this and other award programs. So going back up to the top then, Rob, what we did differently this year in terms of even though awards that are the same is we made some tweaks. We made sure to clarify exactly what we're looking for in terms of the entry. Last year, just like this year, it was a situation where you were just writing something, essentially writing an essay. There aren't all those little fields in terms of the project categories with RPI. Here it is a written nomination. But last year we had it very open-ended. It was just kind of tell us about the person, and we found that it just seems like there's a better way to do that gives the nominator and the judge a little bit more clarity as to what is a winning entry and what information helps us choose those very deserving people from a field of very deserving people, right? The other changes that last year the Wisconsin committee were the judges for the practitioner awards, because we felt like we needed to be, because we were here in Wisconsin and we quote unquote knew the people. We didn't know them all, of course, but we felt like we had more context. And after going through the judging process last year, we thought it worked, and we felt like we had a system that provided a way for us to make fair assessments. However, we thought it would even be better if we could turn over this portion of the judging to outside judges, just as we do with the project awards, which brings me to the fact that this year, the big change is that all entries for both the practitioner awards and the project awards are being done by a different PRSA chapter. That part isn't new. Chapters judging each other has been going on for Lynn and Bob, decades, probably. Awards programs have run that way. So even when it was the Alchemy and the Premier Awards, that's how it ran. But this year we are turning over both the practitioner and the project awards to the outside chapter judging us, which will be Southern Arizona. So this also helped by us giving way more detail as to what we're looking for. We felt like that context that our committee had last year for the work and the people being submitted wouldn't be as important, that somebody who lives in Southern Arizona could effectively evaluate the team and individuals being nominated for these awards. So all that to say, when you come to this page, it's really important to read through all 4 entries in terms of what we're looking for. And again, the actual process is the same. It's a 2,000 word essay max, and you can certainly go below that. And to look at each category for what information we're asking you to provide and the judging criteria being used. Don't trick yourself into thinking, oh, it's all the same. Because a lot of it does sound similar, but there's enough little nuancey elements that you're just going to want to make sure you really read this closely to find out what exactly the judges are being provided and what they will be looking for. We do have an option to be submitting, and again, option, not required, pieces of work or letters of recommendation or additional materials that you want to include with the nomination. It is not required. So once you read through all that and you kind of figure out what you want to do, and you probably have your essay written, then you can come to this page and fill in the contact information. And we had Rob kind of pre-populate some information in here because we want to be able to show you kind of what's next. But on the bottom there, you select the category you're submitting. Again, you can do this as many times as you want, but in this case, Rob is going to be doing one for Young Professional of the Year and his theoretical nomination. Going to the next page. And this is where you actually enter the information in the fields. The team or person being nominated, of which, again, remember, you can be a part. Organization that the person or team is being nominated for. Again, it could be a volunteer organization for sure. And then here's your 2,000 word essay and the files for attachment. And then you hit that glorious submit button and finalize. Now, another important point to make here is there is no charge. There is no charge to submit for a practitioner award. Remember, we talked about how there was a final screen was a PayPal link for the project screen. There are no charges for the practitioner awards. So again, nominate as many people as you want. And I think that pretty much covers how to find those forms, going to your chapter's homepage or finding us if you're having trouble with that. Making sure you are reading all the information ahead of time and thinking about how you're going to kind of take that time, whether in one fell swoop or in piecemeal, filling those in on probably Word documents, coming back when you're ready to hit submit.
Thank you for that deep dive into it. And it's hugely helpful, especially if you've not gone through this process before, because it can seem overwhelming. And so we appreciate that deep dive on how to do it. Lynn, we want to turn it over to you briefly to talk about some of the important aspects of framing a successful entry. I'm going to do a little screen share and you can talk to it and add to it. But you had some wonderful tips that you came up with as a lifetime achievement winner and a judge and submission expert. So take it away, Lynn.
Well, thank you. I want to begin with the mindset. And that seems like a duh. Yeah, of course, you wrap your head around doing this, but the mindset of the judges who are going to be reading your submission. Erin has just told us that's the Southern Arizona chapter. Well, oh my gosh, that's my former chapter. So I can tell you, they don't know jack about Wisconsin. They won't recognize landmarks. They won't necessarily recognize business names. And, unless you're talking about the Packers and maybe one of the main players, they won't know a name. So please, please, please be sensitive to geographic references, to personality references, because these are foreigners, reading your submission. And if something that you mention is really key to your entry, you definitely want a sentence that explains it. And as a judge, I'm reminded of something that an estate attorney told me one time. when she was talking about if you want to leave someone out of your will, if you want to leave someone out of your will, you must mention them. And to my nephew Toad, I leave my love. This is something to keep in mind when you are going through all of those empty boxes. If you don't have something to fill in an empty box, say something about it. Say, I know that this is where we would be talking about our metrics, and we are weak on this, and it is something we are going to work on. As a judge, I can give you a point for that, for knowing that it was there. Please don't leave it empty. And then when you get to that lessons learned, oh, please, please, please tell us you learned something. When I see an empty box on lessons learned, again, that gets 0 points, and it makes me afraid that somebody is out there doing something and they're not learning anything. So please, please, please wrap your head around those empty boxes. Think about the people who are reading them. And I can tell you about the Southern Arizona chapter. It is a very balanced membership. There are agencies, there's a university, there's a lot of healthcare, there's military. And so it's not a predominance of any attitude or background, people who are going to be coming to judge these submissions, which is really kind of exciting. So, and if you can't tell from my energy, I love doing this stuff. That's all I got.
All right, thank you, Lynn. You set it up nicely for how you should be respectful of and think in the mindset of a judge. We want to turn it over to you, Bob, who has judged on the biggest of stages. Talk a little bit about more precisely what judges look for. What are some successes that you can, successful tactics you can use to kind of hook a judge into your entry? And what are some spectacular failures that you would like to avoid? I know we do have a slide here from you as well that I can pull up whenever you would like.
Okay, yeah, just to kind of set the stage a little bit. One of the things that really sets the stage for success is making it easy for the judge to follow the entry. And we're going to talk about a few things here because we want you to get the most amount of points or to prevent losing points. But one of the things that's important is to make it easy to follow. The summaries a lot of times you see are very wordy narratives, and it makes it difficult for a judge to see and clearly discern things like the objectives and strategies. I've actually seen entries where they have this wonderful summary up front, but it's not till you get to the evaluation that says, well, this met our objective of that. Well, you never told me there was an objective. So, make sure you have that up front and not to scatter things around and keep close things together that should be together. Next, if you want to call up the slide. Another thing that's really important in this is to write complete communications objectives. An objective has several elements: a target audience, very specific, not just the general public or something. You have a specific audience you're going after and define that. What's the intended nature of the outcome, or the intended nature of the change that you want to make with this audience? What do you want them to know, think, feel, believe, do, not do, or let your organization do? One of the things that's really important to remember is an objective is an end state with a target audience. When this has happened, we will know we have been successful. You should have an ending metric, preferably starting and ending metrics, but we want X% to do this, or we want X number of people to attend this event. We want to raise Y amount of money. What is it that you actually want, and what's that metric? And then when you get to the evaluation, how did you achieve that? And also a time frame. This program is, we're going to do this in 6 months, a year, 4 weeks, any kind of a time frame. Another thing that's really important in here is not to confuse objectives and strategies. Remember, the objective is the end state or the impact on a specific target audience, and strategies and tactics are how you get there. And we can provide this, by the way, either contact me or somebody else on the team. We can provide this thing for you, this slide. But if you see these verbs here, that will tell you that that's a strategy and not an objective if it's used for a verb. If you say we're going to leverage this, we're going to engage, we're going to promote this, we're going to publicize this, those are all how you get there. What you want is to say, okay, so having done this, what is the effect or impact on the target audience? What's the outcome? When you get to the measurement and evaluation section, remember that should address the objectives that you had for that target audience. How did, what is it that it shows that you've changed what they know, think, feel, do, believe, things like that. When you have things like media metrics, impressions, views, those are all measures of output. Those are all measures of either strategies or tactics and how they were executed. And so if you're going to include those, tie that back to what difference it made on the target audience. That's what's really important. The other thing, and this is probably the biggest area where you see problems in entries, is include research. Now, if you're getting your entries level ready now, I would never advocate writing a plan without a research component up front, but now is maybe a time to relook at your entry to see what's there or what might have supported your decision making. I've seen numerous entries that didn't include any real research. They'll have things like, well, we updated our media list, or we got a client briefing. Okay, that really doesn't tell you anything about your audience, or that doesn't tell you anything about setting your metrics, things like that. And a lot of times while I've been judging, I've seen things like that, and I've just taken a time out, and I've gone online to look up things that could have supported this. And I know research can be expensive and we don't always have the budget for that. You wouldn't believe how much free stuff there is out there. Almost every government agency, for example, census, commerce, agriculture, energy, others, as well as academics, trade publications, trade organizations, all have some research you can use. You can tap into the media kit for either trade media or local media. A lot of times they'll have things, but I've been able, within just a couple of minutes of searching, been able to find things that easily could have been incorporated into an entry, but weren't. And it doesn't take long at all. It's a 5-minute thing. So, it's great to do primary research, and I'm a huge advocate of that, but that's not always affordable. It's okay to do secondary research. In fact, I judged a very, very excellent campaign once, where the primary research citation was actually for research done by that client's competitor. Yet they made it public, it was findable online, and it was relevant to the entries. It's perfectly okay to do something like that. So, you can earn almost all of the points there just to do some secondary research and cite the sources and cite how it made a difference on your campaign. Last thing I just want to remind everybody is that these awards programs are a great way to recognize your work, both for you internally or for your external clients. And so putting together these entries and especially if you win, but putting together the entries, it's a good opportunity to evaluate and review what your planning processes were and what your efforts were. And use that as a learning experience, not only to look back on what you've accomplished for you and your clients now, but also for the future.
I'll share one other thing that I heard from a woman who, well, she won everything in sight. We all hated her. But she shared how it was that she did it. As soon as she got a project, she pulled out a manila file folder and she began to put things in the file folder. So it's a little late for this year, but start doing it tomorrow for what you want to submit next year. And you might even make notes in that folder as you're filling out the forms this year. Doggone, I wish I'd had that. You will be grateful you've got that in your new project folder.
That's a huge point. And I'm going to go over briefly a program that won last year for Destination Madison. And to that point, it was some of the research we had to do was because of a grant that we received to support this program. And so it wasn't, we didn't have to dive in and, reinvent and like figure out, oh my gosh, what did we set out to achieve? What did we achieve? We had the information in the grant report. So, it's basically, our version of the manila folder for this campaign. But I'll do a quick screen share to show you what an awards entry looks like once you submit it, and highlight some of those points that all of our wonderful panelists have mentioned, and show how that led to us receiving this award. So one final screen share. So we're looking at the entry form for the social media campaign project-based entry for last year's WisCOMsin Awards. We submitted a campaign at Destination Madison called Explore Outdoor Madison, which encouraged people to visit Madison and experience our outdoors. This was in 2020 when the campaign launched, height of the pandemic. Nobody wanted to be indoors. We had mask mandates, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of fear. We said, hey, let's give people a way to experience our community and to infuse a certain amount of money back into a very struggling hospitality industry by highlighting our outdoors. As Erin mentioned off the top, our synopsis budget, there's 3-4 sentences here, if that. So just right into it. Here's what we wanted to do, and here's how much money we had. The objective, and I'm kind of now cringing a little bit, like what words did I use in here? Would Bob say no? But we got it through to win the award. But again, you can see it's not, we have 500 word maximum. This is not 500 words. It just gets right to the point of what we wanted to do. As Bob is saying, the research, we could have put maybe some data numbers in here, I think, which would have helped a little bit more. But we did have research from industry stalwarts, U.S. Travel Association and Longwoods International, that showed that people were very hesitant to travel, but when they wanted to travel, it was in places where they could social distance and where they had access to high quality healthcare in case there was a situation that arose when they were far from home. It said they wanted to only be about 2 or 3 hours away from home. We utilized this in the social media campaign to target what audiences we wanted to do and to shape the messages we wanted. The planning process, again, it's just nice, easy steps. Within the planning, you can see that we did set out goals in advance. As Bob mentioned, we had objectives going in, and we could tie into those coming out with the results to see where we were able to go with the campaign. The implementation, again, not super long, but to the point. I've judged before, and not nearly as much as some other folks have, but if you're reading even 8 entries, 10 entries, 12 entries, you want people to get to the point. You don't want to fill it with a lot of fluffy language. This isn't a big client report you're doing. This is an award entry. So again, we kind of dove right into it with the implementation. And a lot of what we did was really to set up some of the supporting materials. So people would know when they hit the supporting materials, this is where it fell into with the project-based entry. And then the evaluation and results. I learned this early on in my PR career, had an amazing campaign with huge impact. And I think I received maybe a certificate of achievement, because it did not dive into the numbers as well as it could have, and it did not set up, my entry didn't set up the numbers as well as it could have. So Lynn, what was that? Lessons learned. I learned that lesson, and now the entries look like this. Very easy to understand and see, what our goals were. 27% page views versus 30% goal. It fell short, but we could measure that we made that effort. We overachieved on organic social media engagement. It was just super helpful for judges to see these. And then of course, all kinds of supporting PDFs. That was a campaign summary, which I think was pulled almost exactly from our report to the client, i.e. the state of Wisconsin, who funded part of this campaign, and some of the social media efforts that we did because it was a social media campaign. So, it's not an overwhelming process to fill out one of these entries. You're not having to write for days, but you need to be thoughtful and thorough when you do. And that's what we hope this session will help you achieve. So that's what we have for the formal part. If anyone has any questions, we have a few minutes to address them. I know Bob has to jump off here in a couple minutes, but any questions from anyone?
What's the age breakdown for Young Professional Award?
I believe that is under 30 years old.
Mhm.
Thank
In last year. So if somebody was 30 or under last year, but 31 this year, that's okay.
Yeah, we wanted to set some limits, and the same thing with the kind of PR pivot, or we realized, I think almost all of us have pivoted at some point, and shouldn't be rewarded for a pivot that happened decades ago. So that less than 5 years pivot was also, I think those are only two kind of outside of the 2021 campaign timeframe, the two kind of professional timeframes. Any other questions? All right, well, seeing none, any last thoughts, Erin, Bob, Lynn?
I just wanted to note that we are planning to take this recording and put it up on our chapter. So the PRC Northeast Wisconsin chapter's YouTube page. So we will work to try to get that up maybe by tomorrow. And then we'll have this available. So if you want to go back to any particular section, you should be able to do that. We will, I'm sure our chapters will communicate when this is out and ready for folks to view, or if you want to share it with colleagues, folks, fellow PRSA members, feel free, and we encourage you to do so.
All right, well, thank you again, Erin, Lynn, Bob, awesome job, great information. These are, again, top-notch experts. Lynn, something else?
Quick reminder, the deadline to get these in is
February 28th for early bird,
early bird,
7th for the final.
and it's showtime when?
We don't have it locked in yet, but we're thinking it's going to be the last Tuesday in April.
Okay, these are
It'll be
key
a
dates.
virtual event. It'll be a virtual event.
Do
like
not
we
be
did last
planning your trip to Hawaii, April 19th. Mhm.
All right. Well, thanks everyone, and feel free to share this recording with colleagues when it is spread out far and wide. So thanks for joining, thanks for speaking, and good luck in your 2022 Wisconsin.
Good luck, everyone.
Good luck, everyone.
Have fun.